Good morning, children. Good morning. And a good morning. Seems like most of the kids on Oceanside, that's why church is half empty today. So today I'll be speaking about the calling of your name. So when school starts again, which is like roughly a couple more weeks, teachers are going to make name tags for each one of you. Name tags are basically just for the teacher to learn each of your names individually, which is important because we all feel special when someone calls their name. For example, you meet someone new, you tell them your name, and then you guys meet up again and they say your name. You're like, wow, you remember my name. So, of course, our names are special to us. Now, do you think God knows your name? Silence. The answer is yes, he does. Now, names are very important to God as well. In fact, I can bring a couple examples from the Bible where God calls someone by their name specifically. First example would be Moses. Moses, one day, he saw a burning bush. He came up to it because, a bush is burning. And God called him from the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, here I am. And another example would be when Jesus was walking through the streets of Jericho, he stopped by a tree, and he looked up, and he saw Zacchaeus. And he told Zacchaeus, come down, I'm coming to your house. And when Jesus called his name, personally, Zacchaeus came down. He listened. Another example would be Apostle Paul. When Apostle Paul, before he became a follower of Jesus Christ, his name was Saul. And he went into Damascus, sorry if I didn't say it correctly, to prosecute the disciples. And a bright light flashed around him, and from the heavens the Lord called unto him, saying, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And Saul answered, who are you, Lord? And, they didn't know God, but he knew them each individually by name. And then the best example that I can bring up, which we'll be talking about today, which is in 1 Samuel, is about a boy named Samuel. Last Sunday, Igor, he was talking about his mother, Hannah. Hannah wanted a son very badly, a lot. And so she prayed to God, and she asked God for a son, and she said, if you give me a son, I will give him up to you so he could serve you for the rest of his days. And so God gave her a son, and she kept her promise. When Samuel was born, and he was a little bit older, she brought him to Eli to be a servant. And so Samuel became a servant of Eli. And so in 1 Samuel chapter 3, this is where we're going to be talking about, is one night Samuel was in his sleep, and he heard someone calling his name. So he got up, and he ran to Eli, and he says, here I am. You called me. And Eli's like, I didn't call you, buddy. Go back to bed. So Samuel went back to bed, and he heard his name called again. So he got up, went to Eli, and he said, here I am, you called me. And Eli realized that it wasn't someone calling him, but it was God calling him. And so Eli told Samuel, when you go back to bed, and if you hear your voice, you hear someone calling your name again, say, here I am, Lord, that your servant is listening. So Samuel went back to bed, and sure enough, his name was called again. And he said, speak, for your servant is listening. And I know some people are going to be thinking, God only calls on grown-ups. And this is why I like the story about Samuel, because he was just a little boy, roughly your age probably, maybe a little bit older, and God still called on him and used him. So before we're going to get up in a minute to pray, I just want to close off with saying, God knows your name just as he knew Samuel. And he still calls boys and little girls to follow him. He'll say, come and follow me. So throughout your days, throughout your life, just listen for God's call. I know it's a little difficult sometimes, like distinguishing between someone actually calling your name and God calling your name. But, you will feel it. And so when God calls your name, just answer as Samuel did, here I am. Amen? Let us get up and pray.